There's a particular kind of loneliness that comes from being in a room full of people who call you mama and realizing you don't recognize your own reflection in their eyes anymore. I'm sitting in the waiting room at Legacy Emmanuel Medical Center, clutching a manila envelope the nurse handed me 10 minutes ago. The fluorescent lights hum overhead, that sterile, clinical sound that makes everything feel cold, even in June. The envelope is thin, light. Strange how something so light can feel like it weighs 1,000 pounds. My hands are shaking. I've been coming to this building for 40 years. Same red brick exterior. Same sliding glass doors that stick a little when it rains. Same smell of antiseptic and floor wax. I came here when I was 27 and pregnant with my first daughter. I came here when I was 30 and pregnant with my second. I came here for mammograms and blood tests, and that time I thought I was having a heart attack, but it was just anxiety. 40 years in the same building. But today, everything is different. Dr. Patterson steps into the doorway. He's a white man in his early 50s, wire-rimmed glasses, the kind of doctor who still takes time to remember your name. "Mrs. Patterson," he says softly. "Would you come back, please?" I stand. My knees feel unsteady, like I've been sitting too long, but I've only been here 15 minutes. We walk down the hallway, beige walls, framed paintings of Mount Hood and the Columbia River Gorge, the kind of art meant to calm you down. It doesn't work. The clock on the wall ticks too loud. My heartbeat ticks louder. In his office, Dr. Patterson closes the door. He sits down behind his desk and folds his hands, and I know before he speaks that whatever he's about to say will split my life into before and after. "Mrs. Patterson," he begins, voice careful, measured. "Your blood test results came back, and there's something we need to discuss." I don't say anything. I just wait. "Your blood type is AB negative," he says. "That's relatively rare, only about 1% of the population." I nod. I don't know where this is going. He pulls out an older file, flips it open. "According to your medical records from 1988 and 1991, when you gave birth to Naomi and Diane, your blood type was listed as O positive." I blink. "So someone made a mistake in the records?" "That's what I thought at first," Dr. Patterson says. "But blood types don't change, Mrs. Patterson." So I ran the test again. Twice. "You are definitively AB negative." My mouth is dry. What does that mean? He leans forward and his expression shifts into something I recognize. The look doctors get when they have to tell you something terrible, and there's no good way to say it. "Mrs. Patterson, if you're AB negative, it's genetically impossible for you to be the biological mother of children with O positive blood. Both of your daughters are O positive. I checked their records." The words hang in the air. Impossible. Biological mother. I hear the words separately, like they're coming from underwater, and then all at once they crash into me and I can't breathe. "That's not possible," I whisper. "I gave birth to them. I was there." "I know," he says gently. "And I'm not questioning that you carried them, that you raised them. But genetically, based on blood type alone, you cannot be their biological mother." I stand up. I don't know why. I just need to move. "Mrs. Patterson, I know this is a shock. How long have you known?" I ask. My voice sounds strange, too calm, like it belongs to someone else. "I got the results 3 days ago," he says. "I wanted to verify before I called you in." 3 days. He's known for 3 days that my entire life is a lie. I pick up my purse. I pick up the envelope. I walk toward the door. "Mrs. Patterson, we should talk about next steps. There are genetic counselors, resources." "I need to go," I say, and I do. I walk out of his office, down the hallway, past the paintings of mountains and rivers, through the sliding glass doors that stick a little, into the June heat. I sit in my car in the parking garage. I don't turn on the engine. I just sit there, gripping the steering wheel, staring at the concrete wall in front of me. 40 years. 40 years of motherhood. And someone, somewhere, has been lying to me since the beginning. Let me tell you how a life can look perfect on the outside and hollow on the inside. Let me tell you how I built a home where I was just a guest. Let me tell you how it started. My name is Gloria Patterson, and I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, in 1961. I grew up in a small wooden house on the west side, the kind with a front porch where neighbors would sit on summer evenings and talk until the lightning bugs came out. My father was a high school history teacher. My mother was a nurse at Grady Memorial Hospital. We weren't rich, but we were steady. That's what Mama used to say. We're steady, Gloria. That's more than most folks can say. Our house smelled like pine floors and whatever Mama was cooking. On Sundays, it was peach cobbler. On Wednesdays, it was greens and cornbread. And every single night, no matter what, there was music. Daddy played records, Aretha, Marvin Gaye, Sam Cooke. Mama hummed along while she washed dishes. I learned to play piano on an old upright we bought from the church when I was 7. The keys stuck sometimes and the bench wobbled, but I loved it. I'd sit there after school and teach myself songs by ear, Mama listening from the kitchen, calling out, "That's it, baby, you got it." When I turned 18, Mama gave me a gift I still have to this day, a silk scarf, bright blue, soft as water, with tiny white flowers embroidered along the edges. "A woman should always have something beautiful that's just hers," she said, tying it around my neck. "Something that reminds her who she is, no matter what." I didn't understand what she meant then. I do now. I left Atlanta in 1982 to attend Portland State University. I wanted to study literature, wanted to see something beyond Georgia. My parents didn't understand. Why go all the way to Oregon when there were good schools right here? But they let me go. Mama cried at the airport. Daddy shook my hand and said, "Make us proud, Gloria." I did my best. Portland in 1982 was gray and green and wetter than anything I'd ever known. The rain didn't pound like it did in Georgia during summer storms. It just lingered, soft and constant. I missed the heat. I missed the sound of cicadas. But I loved my classes. I loved Powell's bookstore. I loved how nobody knew me, how I could be anyone I wanted. That's where I met Robert Wang. It was fall term, American literature, a class on Faulkner and Hemingway. He sat 2 rows ahead of me, always early, always taking notes in neat, careful handwriting. He was 25, finishing his master's in architecture. I was 21, still figuring out what I wanted. We didn't speak for weeks, and then one day after class he turned around and said, "You always underline the same passages I do." I looked down at my book. He was right. "Guess we think alike?" I said. He smiled. It wasn't a big smile, just a small one, like he was letting me in on a secret. We started studying together at the library, then coffee shops. Then he invited me to his apartment in Northwest Portland, a tiny studio above a Vietnamese restaurant. The whole place smelled like star anise and cilantro. "I'm going to teach you how to make pho," he said. "I don't know anything about Vietnamese food," I admitted. "That's okay," he said. "I'll teach you." He did. We stood side by side in that cramped little kitchen, and he showed me how to char onions over the stove flame, how to simmer bones for hours until the broth turned golden. He was patient, gentle. He didn't rush me. And when we finally sat down to eat, bowls steaming between us, I thought, this is what home feels like. Not the place, the person. We got married in 1985. It was a small ceremony at a Baptist church in Northeast Portland, the kind of church that still had wooden pews and hymnals with broken spines. Robert's family came down from Seattle, his parents, his 2 younger sisters. They were quiet, polite, but I could tell they weren't sure about me. A black woman marrying their son. It wasn't what they'd expected. My mama flew out from Atlanta. She wore a lavender dress and cried through the whole ceremony. Daddy couldn't make it. His back was acting up, but he sent a card that said, "Proud of you, baby girl." I wore Mama's pearls, the same ones she wore when she married Daddy. Robert held my hand like he was afraid I'd disappear. We bought our house in Cedar Hills in 1987. It was a small craftsman-style home at the end of a quiet street, surrounded by Douglas firs and oak trees. The price was $89,000, which felt impossible at the time, but Robert's firm had just promoted him, and we qualified for the loan. The house needed work. The paint was peeling. The back porch sagged. But it was ours. Robert spent weekends painting the window trim a deep blue. I planted a magnolia tree in the backyard, the kind that reminded me of home, of Atlanta, of Mama's front yard. Every spring after that, when the magnolias bloomed, I'd stand at the kitchen window and think about where I came from, who I used to be. I didn't know then that one day I'd stand at that same window and not recognize myself at all. Naomi was born on June 14, 1988, at 3:47 in the morning. I remember the light, the way it came through the hospital window, soft and gold, like the world was waking up just for her. Robert stood beside me, tears running down his face, and I thought, this is it. This is everything. Dr. Vincent Hayes delivered her. Vincent was Robert's friend from college, UC Berkeley, where Robert did his undergrad before moving to Portland. They'd stayed close over the years. Vincent had gone to medical school, specialized in obstetrics, and when we found out I was pregnant, Robert insisted we use him. He's the best, Robert said, and he's family. I didn't think much of it then. Vincent was kind, professional. He had dark hair starting to gray at the temples, a calm voice, steady hands. He talked me through every contraction, every push, and when Naomi finally came into the world, red-faced and screaming, he placed her on my chest and said, "She's perfect, Gloria. Just perfect." I looked at her tiny face, her dark eyes, and I thought, she has Robert's eyes. I was so sure. I used to rock Naomi to sleep in a wooden rocking chair Robert bought at an estate sale. It was solid oak, sturdy, with armrests worn smooth from years of use. Every night at 10 o'clock, I'd sit in that chair with Naomi in my arms and sing Hush Little Baby. My voice is low, deeper than most women's. Mama always said I got it from Daddy's side. Naomi loved it. She'd stop fussing the moment I started singing, her little fists uncurling, her breathing evening out. Robert would stand in the doorway sometimes, just watching. "You're a natural," he'd say. I felt like I was. Diane was born 3 years later, in January 1991. Same hospital, same doctor, same quiet awe when they placed her in my arms. Diane was different from Naomi. Louder, more restless. She cried more, slept less, grabbed at everything she could reach. Naomi had been a calm baby. Diane was a storm. But I loved her just the same. 2 daughters, Robert said, sitting beside my hospital bed, holding Diane while I rested. "We have everything, Gloria." I believed him. Our life was good. Robert's career took off. He made partner at his architecture firm in 1995. We remodeled the kitchen. We took vacations to the Oregon coast. We went to church on Sundays, had dinner with friends on Saturdays. I taught 2nd grade at Woodlawn Elementary. I loved it. I loved the kids, the way they looked at you like you had all the answers, the way they'd run up and hug you when they saw you in the grocery store. Naomi took piano lessons. She had my ear for music, picked up songs faster than I ever did. Diane played basketball. She was tall, athletic, competitive. She'd come home from practice exhausted and exhilarated. We had family dinners every night at 6:30. I cooked, usually something simple, chicken and rice, pork chops and greens, spaghetti on Wednesdays because it was easy. Robert would set the table. The girls would argue about whose turn it was to do dishes. It was ordinary. It was beautiful. I had a garden in this backyard. I started it the 2nd year we lived in the house. Collard greens, okra, tomatoes, green beans. Things Mama used to grow. Things I learned to grow watching her. Every Sunday morning I'd go out there with my coffee, still in my robe, and pick whatever was ready. Then I'd come inside and cook it for dinner. The greens had to be cooked low and slow, just like Mama taught me. You couldn't rush them. The garden was the only place I could breathe slow. Everything else in my life moved fast. Work, kids, laundry, bills, appointments. But in the garden, time stretched out. I could kneel in the dirt, pull weeds, feel the sun on my back, and just be. Robert didn't garden. He'd sit on the back porch sometimes, reading the paper, but he never came out to help. That was fine. The garden was mine. On Saturdays, I taught Robert how to make my mama's gumbo. It takes patience. You start with the roux, oil and flour, stirred constantly over medium heat until it turns the color of chocolate. You can't walk away. You can't rush it. If you burn it, you have to start over. Robert learned. He was good at following instructions, good at being careful. We'd stand side by side in the kitchen, me stirring the roux, him chopping onions and celery and bell peppers. The radio played low in the background. Sometimes we talked, sometimes we didn't. And when the gumbo was done, thick and rich and perfect, we'd sit down together and eat it with rice and cornbread. "This tastes like home," Robert said once. I smiled. That's the point. I thought this was what forever looked like. A house in Cedar Hills with blue-painted windows and a magnolia tree in the yard. 2 daughters growing up strong and smart. A husband who held my hand at church and kissed me goodnight. I thought I knew what love was. I thought I knew who I was. But I was wrong. Because the truth, the real truth, was buried so deep, woven so carefully into the fabric of my life, that I didn't see it. Not for 40 years. Naomi was 20 years old when her kidneys started failing. It happened fast. 1 week she was fine, home from college for spring break, laughing in the kitchen, stealing bites of cornbread before dinner. The next week she was in the hospital, her face gray, her body swollen, machines beeping around her. The doctor said she needed a transplant. Family members are usually the best match, Dr. Monroe explained, standing beside Naomi's bed. We'll test you and your husband first, Mrs. Patterson. I didn't hesitate. Test me, whatever she needs. They took my blood that afternoon. 2 days later, Dr. Monroe called me into his office. You're not a match, he said. I felt my chest tighten. What about Robert? We tested him, too. He's not a match either. I stared at him. How is that possible? We're her parents. Dr. Monroe shrugged. It happens more often than you'd think. Blood types don't always align, even in biological families. Do you have other relatives we could test? Siblings? Parents? My parents are gone, I said quietly. Robert's family is in Seattle. I can ask them. Good. In the meantime, we'll put Naomi on the transplant list. I didn't think much of it at the time. I was too scared, too focused on Naomi, on keeping her alive, on sitting beside her hospital bed and praying harder than I'd prayed in years. Robert's family got tested. None of them matched either. In the end, Naomi received a kidney from an anonymous donor. The surgery went well. She recovered. She went back to school that fall. But late at night, lying in bed beside Robert, I kept thinking about what Dr. Monroe had said. It happens more often than you'd think. Maybe, but it felt strange. It felt wrong. I told myself I was being paranoid. Grief does that. Makes you see problems where there aren't any. I pushed the thought away, but it stayed. Quiet. Waiting. Robert started working late. Not every night. Just a few nights a week at first. Then more. By the fall of 2011, he was getting home at 8, 9, sometimes 10 o'clock. Big project, he'd say, kissing my forehead, smelling like coffee and cologne. We're bidding on a hospital expansion in Beaverton. I'll be done soon. I believed him. I made plates for him, covered them in foil, left them in the oven on warm. Most nights he'd eat standing up at the counter, barely looking at me, scrolling through his phone. How was your day? I'd ask. Fine. Busy. That was it. We stopped cooking gumbo on Saturdays. He said he was too tired. We stopped sitting on the back porch together in the evenings. He said he had emails to answer. We stopped touching. Not all at once, just gradually. A kiss became a peck. A hug became a pat on the shoulder. And then one night I reached for him in bed and he said, I'm exhausted, Gloria. Can we not tonight? I said okay, but it wasn't just that night. It was the next night, and the next. And eventually I stopped reaching. Vincent started coming over more. He'd always been around. Birthday parties, holidays, the occasional dinner. Robert's best friend. The girl's Uncle Vincent. But in 2011, he started showing up 2-3 times a week. He and Robert would sit in the living room, drinking beer, talking in low voices. Sometimes I'd walk in and they'd go quiet. Everything okay? I'd ask. Yeah, fine, Robert would say. Just work stuff. But Vincent didn't work in architecture. One night I came downstairs at 2 a.m. to get water. The house was dark, quiet. But when I walked past the living room, I saw them, Robert and Vincent, sitting on the couch, not talking, just sitting there in the dark. When I stepped into the doorway, they both jumped. Gloria, Robert said, standing quickly. You scared me. Sorry, I was just getting water. Vincent stood too. I should go. It's late. You don't have to? No, I do. He grabbed his jacket, nodded at Robert. We'll finish this later. He left. I looked at Robert. Finish what? Just some stuff with the firm, he said. Nothing important. He kissed my forehead and went upstairs. I stood there in the dark living room, holding my empty glass, and I felt something shift, something I couldn't name. Naomi stopped calling me Mom. It happened slowly. At first I thought I was imagining it, but by the summer of 2013 I couldn't deny it anymore. She'd call and say, Hey, Gloria, I'm coming over for dinner. Not, Hey, Mom. Gloria, like I was her aunt, or a family friend. Diane did it too. Gloria, can I borrow your car? Gloria, did you see the email I sent? I didn't say anything at first. I told myself it was a phase. Kids go through phases. But it hurt. It hurt every single time. That Thanksgiving I made gumbo. The real kind. The kind that takes all day. I started the roux at 9 in the morning, stirred it for 45 minutes until my arm ached. I added the trinity, onions, celery, bell peppers, and let it simmer low and slow, just like Mama taught me. By 4 o'clock, the whole house smelled like home. Naomi and Diane arrived together. Robert was already there, setting the table. Vincent showed up with Chinese food. "I brought takeout," he said, setting bags on the counter. "Figured we could use some variety." I stared at the bags, then at the pot of gumbo on the stove. "I already made dinner," I said. "I know," Vincent said, "but this way we have options." Robert smiled. "That's thoughtful, Vincent, thanks." Nobody touched the gumbo. They ate fried rice and orange chicken and egg rolls, laughing and talking, and I stood at the stove, looking at the pot I'd spent all day on, and I felt like a ghost in my own kitchen. That night, after everyone left, I sat alone at the table. I served myself a bowl of gumbo. Just me. I ate it slowly, every spoonful. It tasted like ash. I was cleaning out the hall closet when I found the photo albums. Old ones, the kind with plastic sleeves and sticky pages. I pulled them out, sat on the floor, and started flipping through. Naomi's first birthday. Diane's first day of kindergarten. Our trip to Cannon Beach in 1999. And in every single picture, every single one, there was Vincent. Not just at big events, at everything. Naomi's birthday parties, Diane's soccer games, Christmas mornings, Easter dinners. He wasn't in the background. He was right there, standing next to the girls, his hand on their shoulders, smiling like he belonged. I stared at a photo from 1995, Naomi's 7th birthday. She was blowing out candles on a cake I'd baked. Robert stood on one side of her. Vincent stood on the other. And Naomi was looking at Vincent. Not at me, at Vincent. I brought the album downstairs. Robert was in the living room, reading. "Why is Vincent in every single picture?" I asked. He looked up, surprised. "What?" "Every photo, from the time the girls were babies. He's always there." Robert closed his book. "He's family, Gloria, you know that." "But why?" I pressed. "He's your friend, but he's in more pictures than my own mother." "He's been there for us," Robert said carefully. "For the girls. He's like an uncle to them." I wanted to argue. I wanted to say, no, it's more than that. It's something else. But I didn't have proof. Just a feeling. So I closed the album and went upstairs. Robert and I stopped sharing a bed. He said I snored. Said he couldn't sleep. Said he needed rest for work. So he moved into the guest room. "It's just temporary," he said. It wasn't. I started noticing the phone calls. Diane would call and laugh. Really laugh. The kind of laughter I hadn't heard from her in years. And when I asked who she was talking to, she'd say, "Uncle Vincent. Naomi, too." "Should I ask Robert or Uncle Vincent?" she said once, talking about whether to invest in a condo. I was standing right there. She didn't ask me. They had 2 fathers. And I was disappearing. I found the medical records on a Saturday afternoon in October. I was cleaning out the attic, something I'd been putting off for years. Boxes everywhere. Christmas decorations, old tax returns, the girls' baby clothes. And then I found a box labeled Medical Records 1987 to 1991. Inside were files from my pregnancies, prenatal visits, ultrasounds, blood tests. I flipped through Naomi's file. Blood type, O positive. Then I found my file from 1988. Blood type, O positive. I frowned. That couldn't be right. I'd had blood drawn dozens of times over the years. I knew my blood type. I pulled out my file from 2008, the year Naomi needed the kidney transplant. Blood type, AB negative. I sat there on the dusty attic floor, sunlight streaming through the small window, and I felt the floor drop out from under me. Someone had changed my records. Someone with access. Someone who knew. I put the files in my purse. I didn't say anything to Robert. I went to work on Monday like nothing was wrong. But inside, I was screaming. I woke up at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday morning in March. The alarm didn't go off. I just opened my eyes, the way I'd been doing for 64 years, and lay there in the gray light filtering through the bedroom curtains. Robert's side of the bed was empty. Had been for 8 years now. I could hear him downstairs in the kitchen, the coffee maker beeping, the clink of a mug against the counter, the rustle of the newspaper. Our morning routine performed in separate rooms. I got up, put on my robe, the blue one, soft and worn at the elbows. Downstairs, Robert was already dressed for work. Gray suit, blue tie, reading glasses perched on his nose as he scrolled through his phone. "Morning," I said. "Morning," he said, not looking up. There was a coffee mug in the sink. His. He'd made coffee for himself and left the mug there, like he always did, knowing I'd wash it. I turned on the faucet, washed his mug, dried it, put it back in the cabinet. Then I poured myself a cup and walked to the window. The magnolia tree in the backyard was blooming. White flowers, dozens of them, covering the branches like snow. It looked exactly the way it had that first spring in 1988, when Naomi was a baby, and I'd stand at this same window, holding her, thinking about how lucky I was. But standing there now, looking at those flowers, I felt nothing. Not sadness, not anger, just empty, like someone had scooped out my insides and left just the shell walking around, going through the motions, pretending to be alive. I realized something in that moment. I'd been empty for so long I'd forgotten what full felt like. I thought about the last 40 years. I thought about all the dinners I'd cooked that nobody ate, all the gardens I'd tended alone, all the nights I'd lain awake listening to Robert breathe in the other room, wondering when we'd stopped being a we and started being two people who just happened to live in the same house. I thought about Naomi and Diane, my daughters, except they weren't, were they? The blood didn't lie. I thought about how they called Vincent before they called me, how they laughed with him in a way they never laughed with me, how Diane had asked him, to walk her down the aisle at her wedding next year. Not Robert, not me, Vincent. I thought about the photo albums, Vincent in every picture, his hand on their shoulders, his smile wide and proud, like a father watching his children grow up. Because that's what he was, their father. And I was, what? The woman who carried them, except I didn't even do that, did I? I set my coffee cup down on the counter. My hands were steady. I walked upstairs to the bedroom, pulled my purse from the closet, and took out the medical records I'd found in the attic 6 years ago. The ones I'd kept hidden. The ones I'd been too afraid to act on. Blood type, O positive, 1988. Blood type, AB negative, 2008. Someone had changed them. Someone who had access to medical records. Someone who knew exactly what they were doing. I picked up my phone and called Dr. Patterson. Legacy Emmanuel Medical Center, how may I direct your call? Dr. Patterson, please. This is Gloria Patterson. A pause. One moment. The hold music was soft, instrumental. I barely heard it over the sound of my own heartbeat. Mrs. Patterson? Dr. Patterson's voice, warm and professional. Is everything all right? I need to come in, I said. I need you to run my blood type again. We just did that last week. I know, but I need you to do it again. And I need a full genetic panel. Silence. Mrs. Patterson, is there something specific you're concerned about? I looked at the medical records in my hand. Yes, I said. There is. The appointment was scheduled for the following Monday. 1 week. 7 days of waking up, making coffee, washing Robert's mug, pretending everything was normal. 7 days of smiling when Naomi texted to ask if I was coming to her son's birthday party. 7 days of saying yes, of course, when Diane called to ask if I'd make my peach cobbler for Easter dinner. I was a ghost in my own life, and nobody noticed. On Saturday, I made gumbo, not for anyone else, just for me. I stood at the stove for 45 minutes, stirring the roux, watching it darken from blonde to brown to deep, rich chocolate. I added the trinity, onions, celery, bell peppers, and listened to them sizzle. I added the stock, the chicken, the andouille sausage, the okra, low and slow, just like Mama taught me. Robert came home while it was simmering. "Smells good," he said, barely glancing at me. "Thank you." He went upstairs. I ate alone at the kitchen table, a bowl of gumbo and a piece of cornbread, and for the first time in years, it tasted right. Not because the recipe had changed, because I had. Dr. Patterson called me into his office on a Wednesday afternoon. I sat in the same chair I'd sat in 2 weeks ago, the same framed paintings on the walls, the same ticking clock. But everything was different now. He slid a folder across the desk. "Mrs. Patterson," he said quietly, Your blood type is definitively AB negative. I ran the test 3 separate times to be absolutely certain. I nodded. I already knew. Based on genetics, it is impossible for you to be the biological mother of Naomi or Diane Patterson. Both are O positive. I know, I said. He blinked. You know? I've known something was wrong for a long time, I said. I just didn't know what. He leaned back in his chair. Mrs. Patterson, I have to ask, do you have any memory of fertility treatments? IVF? Anything like that? I froze. What? In vitro fertilization, he said. If embryos were implanted rather than natural conception, that could explain the blood type discrepancy. You would have carried the pregnancies, but the genetic material wouldn't be yours. The room tilted. I don't remember any IVF, I whispered. Robert and I tried for a year before I got pregnant with Naomi, but then it just happened naturally. Dr. Patterson's expression was careful. Mrs. Patterson, if someone implanted donor embryos without your full knowledge or consent, that would be a very serious violation. Who would do that? I asked, but even as I said it, I knew. Vincent, Dr. Vincent Hayes, my OB-GYN, Robert's best friend, the man who delivered both my daughters. I hired a private investigator that afternoon. His name was Rick Sullivan, retired Portland PD, 20 years on the force, now doing freelance work out of a small office above a faux restaurant on Southeast Division. He was in his late 50s, gray hair, weathered face, eyes that had seen too much. What do you need, Mrs. Patterson? He asked, gesturing for me to sit. I sat. I folded my hands in my lap. I need to know if my husband and his best friend implanted someone else's embryos in my body without telling me, I said. Rick's expression didn't change. Tell me everything. So I did. 2 weeks later, Rick called me on a Thursday morning. Mrs. Patterson, I need you to come to my office. I found some things. My hands were shaking when I hung up. I drove to Southeast Division, parked on the street, climbed the narrow stairs to Rick's office. He had files spread across his desk, papers, photographs, medical records. Sit down, he said gently. I sat. He slid the first document across the desk. Robert Wang and Vincent Hayes, he said. They met in 1981 at UC Berkeley, roommates sophomore year. I looked at the photograph. 2 young men, barely 20 years old, standing in front of a dorm building. Robert's arm around Vincent's shoulders. They looked happy. They looked like more than friends. They were together, Rick said quietly. Romantically, for 3 years. I stared at the photo. Robert's family found out in 1984, Rick continued. His parents gave him an ultimatum, end the relationship or lose his inheritance and his place in the family. So he chose the inheritance, I whispered. He chose survival, Rick said. In 1984, being gay wasn't just stigmatized, Mrs. Patterson. It was dangerous, especially for a Chinese-American man from a conservative family. I understood, but understanding didn't make it hurt less. Rick slid another document across the desk. This is from Pacific Fertility Center in Beaverton, he said. A clinic that Vincent Hayes owned from 1985 to 2005. I looked at the letterhead. Vincent's name. Medical director. He owned a fertility clinic? I asked. Yes, which gave him complete control over patient records, procedures, and embryo handling. Rick pulled out another document. This is your file from 1987. I read it. Patient, Gloria Patterson. Procedure, in vitro fertilization. Egg source, donor. Anonymous ID, 4472. Sperm source, donor. Anonymous ID, 4473. Embryo transfer, May 15th, 1987. Result, positive pregnancy. I couldn't breathe. I never consented to this, I whispered. I thought Robert and I were trying naturally. I didn't even know I was doing IVF. Look at the consent form, Rick said, sliding another page across. I read it, my signature at the bottom, but I didn't remember signing it. Mrs. Patterson, do you remember going to Pacific Fertility Center in 1987? I closed my eyes, trying to think, and then it came back. A memory I'd buried. May 1987, Robert had been so excited. Gloria, Vincent says he can help us, he'd said. He's opened a new clinic. He specializes in helping couples who are having trouble conceiving. But we've only been trying for a year, I'd said. I know, but why wait? Vincent says he can run some tests, make sure everything's working right. It's free. He's offering it as a favor. So I'd gone. Pacific Fertility Center. A small building in Beaverton, clean and modern. Vincent had been kind, professional. We're just going to do a routine exam, he'd said. Check your hormone levels, make sure everything looks good. And we'll give you a fertility boost, some vitamins, hormones to help your body prepare. I'd trusted him. He was Robert's best friend. He was a doctor. I remember him giving me an injection. This will help regulate your cycle, he'd said. I remember feeling sleepy. Just rest for a bit, he'd said. Perfectly normal. When I woke up, I was in a recovery room, groggy, confused. What happened? I'd asked the nurse. Just a routine procedure, she'd said. Dr. Hayes will explain everything. But Vincent never did explain. He just said, everything went perfectly. You should be able to conceive very soon. 2 weeks later, I took a pregnancy test. Positive. I'd been so happy. I'd thought it was a miracle. He sedated me, I said, looking at Rick. He told me it was a routine exam, but he implanted embryos while I was unconscious. Rick nodded grimly. And he did it again in 1990. Same procedure, same deception. I looked at the files. 2 pregnancies, 2 daughters, neither of them genetically mine. Whose embryos were they? I asked. Rick hesitated. Mrs. Patterson, the donor IDs are coded, but I was able to trace them through Vincent's personal records. He slid one more document across the desk. Donor 4473, sperm. Vincent Michael Hayes. Donor 4472, egg. Michelle and Gwyn. I stared at the names. Vincent is their biological father, I whispered. Yes. Who is Michelle and Gwyn? Vincent's ex-girlfriend from medical school. She donated eggs to his fertility clinic in 1986. She died in a car accident in 1992. So she never knew. She never knew her eggs had been used, just like I never knew I was carrying someone else's children. There's more, Rick said quietly. He pulled out bank statements. Vincent Hayes to Robert Wang, $1,500 per month, starting in 1995, ending in 2010, 15 years, $270,000. Memo line, family support. He was paying Robert, I said. Yes. For what? For access, Rick said. For the right to be in his daughters' lives, for the ability to be their father without legally being their father, and for Robert's silence. Rick pulled out one more document, an email, dated October 2013, from Vincent Hayes to Robert Wang. Subject, we need to talk. The girls deserve to know the truth. They're adults now, 25 and 22, and Gloria deserves to know. This has gone on too long. I can't keep lying to her face every time I see her. Robert's reply, not yet. She'll take everything if she finds out. The house, the money, everything. Let's wait until the girls are fully independent. Another few years. Then we'll tell her together. I sat in Rick's office for a long time, staring at the papers spread across the desk. Evidence of a life I never agreed to. Evidence of a violation so profound I didn't have words for it. What do you want to do? Rick asked finally. I looked up at him. I want to know if the girls know, I said. I want to know if they've been part of this. Rick hesitated. Mrs. Patterson, are you sure you want to know? I've spent 40 years not knowing, I said. I'm done. Rick installed audio recording equipment in my house the following week. In the living room, the kitchen, the dining room. Oregon is a one-party consent state. As long as I knew about the recording, it was legal. I called a family meeting for Saturday, March 29th. Robert, Naomi, Diane, Vincent, all of them. I need to talk to you about something important, I said when I called each of them. They all agreed to come. Saturday arrived. I made coffee, set out cups, sat in the living room and waited. Robert arrived first. He looked confused. What's this about, Gloria? You'll see. Naomi and Diane arrived together. They hugged me, quick, perfunctory hugs, the kind you give a distant relative. Vincent arrived last. When he walked in and saw all of us sitting there, his face went pale. Gloria, he said, what's going on? I didn't answer. I just pressed play on my phone. The audio played through the Bluetooth speaker on the coffee table. Dr. Patterson's voice. Your blood type is AB negative. It is genetically impossible for you to be the biological mother of Naomi or Diane Patterson. Naomi's face went white. Diane stood up. Mom? Sit down, I said quietly. She sat. I played the next recording. My own voice reading from the medical files. Patient, Gloria Patterson. Procedure, in vitro fertilization. Egg source, donor. Sperm source, donor. Embryo transfer, May 15th, 1987. Vincent put his head in his hands. Robert closed his eyes. I played the email. Rick's voice reading it aloud. The girls deserve to know the truth, and Gloria deserves to know. This has gone on too long. Then Robert's reply. Not yet. She'll take everything if she finds out. I stopped the recording. The room was silent. I never consented to IVF, I said, my voice steady and cold. I thought I was going in for a routine exam. You sedated me, Vincent. You implanted embryos in my body without my knowledge, without my permission. Vincent's voice was barely a whisper. Gloria, Don't, I said. Don't you dare try to explain this away. I turned to Robert. You knew, I said. From the beginning, you knew. He nodded, tears running down his face. Yes. Why? He looked at me, and for the first time in 40 years, I saw the truth in his eyes. Because I couldn't have children with you, he said quietly. Because I'm gay, Gloria. I've been in love with Vincent since we were 22 years old. But my family would have disowned me. Society would have destroyed us. So we came up with a plan. A plan, I repeated. Vincent would father the children, Robert continued. You would carry them. I would be the legal father. We'd all have what we wanted. Vincent would have his children. I'd have my family and my inheritance. And you'd have the family you'd always dreamed of. Except you never asked me, I said. You never told me the truth. You violated my body. You stole 40 years of my life. I turned to Naomi and Diane. How long have you known? I asked. Naomi's eyes filled with tears. Mom, how long? Since 2013, Diane whispered. Vincent told us when I was 22 and Naomi was 25. 12 years, I said. You've known for 12 years that I'm not your biological mother, that I was lied to, that I was violated, and you never said a word. We didn't want to hurt you, Naomi said, crying now. You didn't want to hurt me? I repeated. You let me spend 12 years thinking I was your mother, your real mother, while you called Vincent and asked him for advice before you ever called me. While you, Diane, asked him to walk you down the aisle at your wedding instead of me. You raised us, Diane said desperately. You carried us for 9 months. I carried someone else's embryos, I said. Without knowing it, without choosing it. My body was used as an incubator for children who were never meant to be mine. Silence. I stood up. I want you all out of my house, I said. Robert started to speak. Gloria, this is my house, I said. My name is on the deed. Mine, not yours, not Vincent's, mine, and I want you out. Where am I supposed to go? Robert asked. I don't care, I said. Go to Vincent's. That's where you've wanted to be for 40 years anyway. Naomi was crying. Mom, please, don't call me that, I said. Her face crumpled. You don't get to call me Mom anymore, I said. Not after 12 years of lying to my face. Not after choosing Vincent over me every single time. Not after treating me like I was just the woman who happened to carry you. Diane stood up, angry now. You did carry us. You raised us. That makes you our mother. No, I said. A mother is someone her children trust, someone they turn to, someone they love. You don't love me. You love Vincent. You've always loved Vincent. I was just the incubator you didn't choose. I walked to the front door and opened it. Get out, I said. Vincent left first, his shoulders shaking, then Naomi, sobbing, then Diane, her face hard and closed. Robert was the last to leave. He paused at the door. I'm sorry, Gloria, he said. I thought we were giving you what you wanted. You gave me a lie, I said, and you took 40 years of my life that I can never get back. I closed the door. The house was empty. For the first time in 40 years, it was completely, utterly empty. No Robert reading the paper in the morning, no daughters calling to ask if I'd seen their old yearbooks. No Vincent stopping by with takeout. Just me. And the silence. I thought I'd feel sad. I thought I'd cry or rage or fall apart. But I didn't. I felt light, like I'd been carrying something heavy for so long that I'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. On the third day, I went up to the attic. I found the box I'd packed away years ago. The one labeled Gloria, Atlanta. Inside were things from before Robert, before Portland, before I became a wife and a mother and an incubator. I pulled out the silk scarf, the blue one with white flowers that Mama had given me when I turned 18. A woman should always have something beautiful that's just hers. I tied it around my neck, looked in the mirror, and for the first time in decades, I recognized the woman looking back at me. I started working in the garden again. Every morning at 7 o'clock, I'd go out to the backyard in my robe and my old gardening gloves, and I'd kneel in the dirt. I planted collard greens, okra, tomatoes, the same things Mama used to grow. The soil was cool and damp under my hands. The sun was warm on my back, and I breathed. Slow, deep. For the first time in years, I could breathe. On Saturday, I made gumbo. Not for anyone else, just for me. I started the roux at 9 in the morning, stirred it for 45 minutes, watching it darken, smelling the richness rising from the pot. I added the trinity, the stock, the chicken, the sausage, low and slow. When it was done, I sat down at the kitchen table with a bowl and a piece of cornbread. And I ate. It tasted the way Mama used to make it. Rich, full, right. I'd forgotten. Naomi called on a Tuesday evening. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Mom? Her voice was small, tentative. Yes. She paused. Can I come see you? I looked around my empty kitchen, my quiet house. Why? I asked. Because I need to apologize. Really apologize. Not just say I'm sorry. I need to tell you the truth about how I feel. I was quiet for a long time. Okay, I said finally. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock. Thank you, she whispered. Naomi arrived at 1:58. She looked tired, older than 37. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying for days. I let her in. We sat in the living room, the same room where I'd played the recordings 3 weeks ago. I don't know where to start, she said. Start with the truth, I said. She nodded. Vincent told us in 2013, she said. He sat us down, just me and Diane, and he said he was our biological father, that you'd carried us, but the embryos weren't yours, that you didn't know, that Robert knew, but you didn't. And you didn't think to tell me? We didn't know what to do, she said, crying now. We were scared. Vincent said it would destroy you if you found out. Robert said it would destroy the family, so we pretended we didn't know. For 12 years. Yes, I looked at her. You're an adult, Naomi, I said. You were 25 years old. You knew right from wrong. You chose to lie to me. I know. You chose Vincent. I know. Why? She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. Because it felt like he wanted us more, she whispered. He was always so present, always asking about our lives, always interested. And you, she paused. You were always busy, always working, always tired. I felt like I'd been slapped. I was working, I said, my voice shaking, so I could pay for your piano lessons, your college tuition, your life. I was tired because I spent every day making sure you had everything you needed while carrying the weight of a marriage that was a lie. I know, she sobbed. I know that now. But back then, I felt like Vincent cared more. We sat in silence for a long time. Mom, Naomi said finally, I need to tell you something else. I looked at her. I'm in therapy, she said. Twice a week since April. I'm trying to understand why I made the choices I made, why I hurt you, and my therapist helped me see something. What? That I was angry at you, she said quietly. For years, because you weren't perfect, because you didn't give me all the attention I wanted. And when Vincent told me he was my biological father, part of me felt justified, like I'd been right to be angry, like you weren't really my mother anyway, so it didn't matter. She wiped her eyes. But I was wrong, she said. You carried me. You gave birth to me. You raised me. Biology doesn't erase that. And I spent 12 years punishing you for not being perfect when all you ever did was love me. I'm sorry, Mom, she said. I'm so sorry. Not because I got caught, but because I finally understand what I took from you. I took your truth. I took your choice. I took 12 years when I could have been honest with you, and instead I was cruel. I looked at her. My daughter. Not my blood, not my genetics, but the child I'd carried inside my body for 9 months. The child I'd rocked to sleep. The child I'd loved with everything I had. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said honestly. Not yet. I understand, she whispered. But I'm willing to let you try to earn it, I said. That's all I can offer right now. She nodded, crying. Thank you. She stood to leave. At the door, she turned back. Vincent moved to Seattle, she said, with Robert, last week. Diane and I told them we needed space, that we needed to figure out who we are without them. That's good, I said. I love you, Mom, she said. I know I don't deserve to say that, but I do. I love you. I looked at her. I know, I said. I met with a lawyer in early May, Robert Griffin, family law specialist. What can I do for you, Mrs. Patterson? He asked. I want to file for divorce, I said, on the grounds of fraud and reproductive coercion. He made notes. I also want to revise my will, I said. He pulled out a notepad. I want everything to go to the Black Women's Health Initiative, I said. My house, my savings, my retirement accounts, all of it. And your daughters? I hesitated. Then I said, nothing. He looked up. Mrs. Patterson, they knew what was done to me for 12 years and said nothing, I said. They chose the man who violated my body over the woman who raised them. That's their choice. This is mine. He nodded slowly. I understand. The divorce papers were served to Robert on May 15th. He called me that night. Gloria, please, we can talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, I said. I'll give you everything. The house, the money. I don't want your money, Robert. I want you to understand that what you did to me wasn't love. It was violation. It was theft. You stole my right to choose what happened to my own body. I thought I was giving you what you wanted. You thought you were using me, I said. And you did. For 40 years. I hung up. I found an apartment in Northeast Portland. Small, 1 bedroom, hardwood floors, windows facing east. It was perfect. I packed only what I needed, the blue silk scarf, the photo album of Mama, the wooden rocking chair I used to rock Naomi in. Even though she wasn't mine genetically, I'd still held her. That was real. The seeds from my garden. On moving day, I stood in the kitchen of the house on Cedar Hills and looked around. 40 years of my life in this house, but it had never really been mine. It had been Robert's, Vincent's, a stage set for a lie. Never mine. I walked out to the backyard one last time. The magnolia tree was still blooming, white flowers everywhere. I picked one. Pressed it between my fingers, felt its softness. This tree I'd planted. This tree was real. I tucked the flower into my pocket, and I left. 6 months later, the apartment gets morning light. That's the first thing I noticed when I moved in, and it's still the thing I love most. Every morning at 6:30, the sun comes through the east-facing windows and fills the whole space with this soft, golden light. It's a small apartment. 1 bedroom, a kitchen barely big enough for 1 person, a living room with just enough space for my rocking chair and a small couch I bought at the estate sale. But it's mine. Every single inch of it is mine. I've been here for 6 months now. 6 months of waking up alone and not feeling lonely. 6 months of making coffee just for myself and actually tasting it. 6 months of learning who Gloria Patterson is when she's not trying to be someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's ghost. The divorce was finalized in September. Robert signed the papers without contest. He moved to Seattle with Vincent. They bought a condo in Capitol Hill from what I heard through Naomi. I didn't ask for details. I got the house in Cedar Hills. I sold it in October for $480,000. Paid off the mortgage, put the rest in savings. I don't need much. Just enough for rent, groceries, and the small luxuries I'd forgotten I loved. Good coffee, fresh flowers, books I actually have time to read. I wear the blue silk scarf almost every day now, not just for special occasions, not tucked away in a drawer waiting for someday, every day. Because Mama was right. A woman should have something beautiful that's just hers, and I'd spent 64 years forgetting that. I have a garden now, not a backyard garden. The apartment doesn't have a yard. But I have 12 pots on the balcony, and I've planted collard greens, cherry tomatoes, herbs. Every morning I go out there with my coffee and check on them. The collard greens are doing well. Big dark green leaves, just like the ones Mama used to grow. I harvest them on Sundays, cook them slow with a ham hock and a little vinegar, the way she taught me. The smell fills the whole apartment. It smells like home. Not the home I had in Cedar Hills, the home I had in Atlanta before I became someone else. I still make gumbo every Saturday, but now I don't eat it alone. I invite people. My neighbor, Mrs. Washington, a 72-year-old widow who lives 2 doors down. She brings cornbread. My friend Angela from church, who's been asking me to join the choir. I told her I'd think about it. Sometimes Naomi comes. We're not where we used to be. We might never be. But she's trying. She shows up with her kids, my grandchildren, even if we don't share blood, and they sit at my little kitchen table and eat gumbo and laugh. And sometimes when I'm stirring the pot, I catch Naomi watching me with this look on her face. Regret, maybe, or understanding, or both. Last Saturday, after everyone left, Naomi stayed to help me clean up. We washed dishes side by side, quiet, the way we used to when she was little. "Mom," she said finally, "can I ask you something?" "Yes." "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" I dried a plate, set it in the cabinet. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I want to. But forgiveness isn't something you decide once. It's something you have to choose every single day." She nodded. "I understand." "Right now," I said, "I'm choosing to let you earn it. That's the best I can do." "That's fair," she whispered. The wooden rocking chair sits by the window in my living room. The same chair I used to rock Naomi in when she was a baby. The same chair I sang Hush Little Baby in, night after night, my voice low and steady. I don't use it much anymore. But 2 weeks ago, Naomi brought her youngest daughter, Emma, to visit. Emma is 3 years old. Dark curly hair, bright eyes, the kind of child who asks 1,000 questions and never sits still. But that afternoon, she was tired, fussy, crying. "I'm sorry, Mom," Naomi said, trying to soothe her. "She didn't nap today. Let me," I said. I took Emma from Naomi's arms, sat down in the rocking chair, and started to rock, slowly, back and forth. And then I started to sing, "Hush, little baby, don't say a word." My voice was the same, deep, steady. Emma stopped crying. She looked up at me with those big brown eyes, and she listened. And when I finished the song, she was asleep. I looked up and saw Naomi standing in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. "I forgot," she whispered. "I forgot how you used to sing to me like that." "I didn't," I said. "Diane called me in October." "Mom," she said, "I need to talk to you." We met at a coffee shop in Hawthorne, neutral ground. She looked different, thinner, tired. Her wedding was supposed to be this month, but she'd postponed it. "I called it off," she said. "The wedding." I didn't say anything. "Not forever," she clarified. "Just postponed, until I figure some things out." "What things?" She looked down at her coffee cup. "I asked Vincent to walk me down the aisle," she said. "And I didn't even think about how that would hurt you. I thought it was what I was supposed to do. Because he's my biological father." I nodded. "But you're the one who taught me how to walk," she said, her voice breaking. "You're the one who held my hand when I was scared. You're the one who stayed up all night when I had the flu. You're the one who showed up. And I forgot that." She looked up at me. "I don't want to get married without you there, Mom. I don't want to walk down that aisle with Vincent when you're the one I should be walking with. So I'm waiting, however long it takes, until you're ready." I reached across the table and took her hand. "Thank you," I said. "I haven't spoken to Robert since the divorce was finalized. He sent a letter in October, handwritten, 3 pages. I almost threw it away. But I didn't. I read it. He apologized, said he didn't know how to love the right way, said he'd spent his whole life trying to be what his family wanted, what society expected, and in the process, he'd hurt the one person who never asked him to be anything but himself. He said he and Vincent were happy in Seattle, that they were finally able to be together openly, that he hoped someday I could understand. I folded the letter, put it in a drawer. Not for forgiveness, for proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy, that the life I thought I had was real to me, even if it wasn't real to him. Vincent sent flowers, white magnolias, no card. I put them in a vase by the window and watched them bloom for a week, and then I let them go. I started going back to church in September, the same Baptist church where Robert and I got married 40 years ago. It's different now. New pastor, new members, but the building is the same. The wooden pews, the stained glass windows, the hymnal with the broken spine. I sit in the back row by myself, and I listen. The choir sings Amazing Grace, and I close my eyes and remember Mama's voice, the way she used to hum it while she cooked. After service, Angela finds me. "We could use a voice like yours in the choir," she says. "I haven't sung in years," I say. "That's okay," she says. "Your voice remembers. I joined the choir last week. We practice on Wednesday nights. I stand in the back row next to Angela and I sing. My voice is rusty at first, hesitant. But then I find the note, and it comes back. Low, strong, steady. And I remember. I remember who I was before I became someone's wife. Before I became someone's mother. I was Gloria, and Gloria could sing. A morning in November, I wake up on a Thursday morning in November. The sun is just starting to come through the windows. The air is cool. I can hear birds outside, crows mostly, but a few sparrows too. I get up, put on my robe, and walk to the kitchen. I make coffee, just for me. I pour it into my favorite mug, the blue one I bought myself last month, and I walk to the window. The balcony garden is thriving. The collard greens are ready to harvest. The tomatoes are ripening. I take a sip of coffee, and I taste it. Really taste it. Rich, warm, perfect. I think about the last 40 years. I think about everything I lost. A husband who never really loved me. Daughters who are my daughters in every way except blood. A house that was never really mine. A life built on a lie. But I also think about what I found. Myself. People ask me if I regret those 40 years. If I wish I'd known sooner. The truth is, I don't know. Those years gave me Naomi and Diane. And even though they're not my blood, even though they hurt me, they're still the girls I rocked to sleep, the girls I taught to read, the girls I loved with everything I had. Those years gave me a garden I still dream about, a recipe for gumbo that Mama would be proud of, a singing voice I'd forgotten I had. But here's what I know now. You can spend a lifetime building a home for everyone else and forget to leave a room for yourself. You can love so hard that you disappear. You can give and give and give until there's nothing left, and still, people will ask for more. And one day, you'll wake up and realize that the person you've been searching for, the person you've been mourning, was you all along. Naomi calls me on Thanksgiving morning. "Mom, I know you said you wanted to spend the day alone, but would you consider coming to dinner? Just for a little while?" I hesitate. "Diane will be there," she says, "and my kids, and my husband. No Robert, no Vincent, just family." "Naomi, please, Mom. I'm making collard greens, your recipe. I want you to tell me if I did it right." I smile. "Okay," I say. "I'll come." I arrive at Naomi's house at 3 o'clock. It's a small bungalow in Selwood with a front porch and a maple tree in the yard. Naomi opens the door before I can knock. "Mom," she says and hugs me. A real hug. Not the quick, perfunctory kind. The kind that lasts. Inside, the house smells like turkey and cornbread and greens. Diane is in the kitchen, mashing potatoes. She looks up when I walk in. "Hi, Mom," she says softly. "Hi, baby." She sets down the masher and comes over, hugs me tight. "Thank you for coming," she whispers. "Thank you for inviting me." We eat at 4 o'clock. The table is crowded. Naomi's husband, her 3 kids, Diane and her fiancé, and me. Naomi serves the collard greens. I take a bite. They're good. Not perfect. She added too much salt. But good. "Well?" Naomi asks nervously. "They're almost as good as Mama's," I say. She beams. After dinner, Diane pulls me aside. "Mom, I want to ask you something." "Okay." "I'm rescheduling the wedding for next June," she says, "and I want you to walk me down the aisle." I look at her. Not Vincent? I ask. No, she says firmly. You're the one who raised me. You're the one who should give me away, if you're willing. I feel tears prick my eyes. I'm willing, I say. She hugs me, crying, and I hold her. My daughter. Not by blood, but by choice. I wake up on a Saturday morning in early December. The apartment is quiet. The sun is just starting to rise, painting the sky pink and gold. I get up, make coffee, and walk to the window. The balcony garden is mostly dormant now. Winter in Portland means gray and rain. But the collard greens are still hanging on, tough and resilient. I take a sip of coffee, and I realize something. I don't feel empty anymore. I don't feel like a ghost. I feel full. I think about the woman I was a year ago, standing in Dr. Patterson's office holding a manila envelope, my whole life crumbling around me. I think about the woman I am now, standing in my own apartment, in my blue silk scarf, drinking coffee that tastes right, planning to sing in the choir on Sunday. They're not the same woman, but that's okay, because I like this woman better. I pick up my phone and text Naomi. I'll make gumbo tomorrow. Invite whoever you want. She responds immediately. Thank you, Mom. I love you. I smile. I love you too, baby. I don't know when exactly I came back to myself. It wasn't one moment. It wasn't one decision. It was 1,000 small moments. A silk scarf tied around my neck. A garden planted in pots. A song sung in the back row of a choir. A bowl of gumbo made just for me. It was learning that I didn't need someone else to make me whole. That I'd been whole all along. I'd just forgotten. There's a particular kind of loneliness that comes from being in a room full of people who call you mama and realizing you don't recognize your own reflection in their eyes anymore. But there's also a particular kind of peace that comes from standing alone in your own kitchen, wearing something beautiful that's just yours, and realizing that you finally recognize yourself again. I'm 64 years old. I'm a mother to daughters who aren't my blood. I'm a woman who was lied to for 40 years. I'm a woman who lost everything and found herself. And I'm still here, still standing, still singing, still growing collard greens in pots on a balcony in Northeast Portland. One morning, not too long ago, I woke up and the coffee tasted right again. The sun came through the windows the way it always does. The birds sang outside. And I knew I was home. Not in a house, not in a marriage, not in a lie, but in myself. And that was enough. That was everything. I don't know when exactly I came back to myself, but one morning I woke up and the coffee tasted right again, and I knew I was home.